Matters. Tonight we're talking about why growth matters, and we are talking about relational leadership. It is developed. Connection matters, understanding matters, but the hard truth is relational leadership doesn't improve by accident. It is developed. This is the 30. I want to thank you for joining. Well, hello there, gang. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The 30. I want to thank all of you for being here. This is a space for meaningful conversation designed to support your personal, professional, spiritual, and leadership growth. I'm Patrick, and this is a production of the Jackman Group, LLC. Just a reminder, if you're watching us from YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, or you can simply go to @the30 with Patrick. That's @the30 with Patrick. Thank you so much for doing that. Over the past 2 episodes, we've been building a very special series. This is a very powerful one. In our last episode, we covered, in our first one, we covered connection is a leadership strategy. Then in our last episode, we discussed you can't lead what you don't understand. This is all part of our relational leadership series. And today, we are going to actually take the next step. Episode 3 in our relational leadership series. This is called Relational Leadership is Develop, Not Assume. Now, think about this. Just because someone holds a position doesn't mean they've developed the relational capacity. I'll say that again. Just because someone holds a position does not mean that they've developed the relational capacity. Well, tell us more, Patrick. Well, as it relates to leadership, there's a kind of a quiet assumption that has taken hold. And it says, if you're smart, if you're experienced, if you've been promoted, you will naturally grow into a relational leader or in a spot of possessional or relational leadership. But folks, that's not how it works. See, this assumption is so far from the truth. I refer to it as just a myth because it is so far. See, relational maturity doesn't grow automatically. It grows intentionally with intent. See, you don't accidentally improve your listening skills. You don't accidentally strengthen your emotional awareness. You don't accidentally build trust. You don't accidentally handle tension well or deliver great feedback skillfully. You don't do these by accident. You develop them. And development requires structure. So that's where we're going to start today, about developing structure. Think about it. Consider, if you may, think about one area, any area in your personal or professional life that requires development. You know what? So let's take an example, fitness, because we're still in a early in the year where folks are concentrating on getting fit, right? That's part of their goals, resolution. I want to tone up. I want to lose some weight. I want to gain some muscle. So we're still in the fitness phase. So think about this. You don't improve fitness just by thinking about it. You got to get up and do something. You got to go to the gym. You got to eat well. So if you want to be fit, you got to do something about it. So you don't just think about it and it says, okay, I'm going to think about me being fit, and then automatically I am fit. I'm going to think about being an exceptional leader, and then automatically, by accident, I'm going to become an exceptional leader. It doesn't work like that. You don't improve strategy just by wishing for it. See, it doesn't work like that. You don't go from ordinary to exceptional. It doesn't work like that. There's greater things that you have to do. See, exposure gives experience, but structure gives growth. So you have to develop a structure in terms of, let's take fitness again. What is that structure? The structure may be, okay, I am going to work on whatever area that I may be lacking or have a deficiency in. So I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on eating better. I'm going to cut out so much of the sweets, and I'm going to start to drink more water. That's me. I need to drink some more water. So I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to have a structure in place as opposed to just thinking about it. I'm going to create a structure, because structure gives growth. Exposure, just thinking about it, doesn't do it for you. See, structure looks something like this. When we talk about structure, there has to be some form of accountability. So whether you have an accountability partner, whether you have someone that holds you accountable. So it goes back to the fitness, right? You have someone that holds you accountable to get up and exercising, right? To exercise, go to the gym or wherever. Or you have someone that holds you accountable for drinking more water and eating better. That's accountability, right? So structure looks something like that. Great accountability. Someone that provides feedback, good, candid, and honest feedback. Structure also gives you the opportunity to reflect on where you've been, to reflect on the journey that you've gone through or going towards. Structure also calls about community involvement, connection. That's what structure does for you, to help you move forward in your journey. And relational leadership, especially, requires space for you to practice, reflect, make adjustment, pivot, try again, right? So that's what it does. So without structure, growth becomes accidental, by chance. Well, maybe I'll become fit. Maybe not. Maybe I will become that exceptional leader. Accidental. as opposed to being intentional. And accidental growth is slow. There's not a path for it. It's slow, it's delayed, it's up and down. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So if we want consistent growth, if we want growth that is continuous, not saying that you are going to not have some ups and downs in your journey, because you will, but we need to focus on relational leadership. If you are in a space of a leader, or if you desire to become a leader, or if you are an emerging leader, you need to focus on relational leadership. You need to focus on growth and development. See, in my years of developing leaders, both in training, in the training capacity, or coaching, I've seen my share of leaders who either forget about their own development, or they've reached a certain point in their career where intentionally they choose not to focus on their development, or intentionally they decide not to focus on the development of their team members, those that they're in charge of in terms of serving. So what happens? See, they fail to understand. Those that intentionally says, I have reached this point in my leadership role or my leadership capacity that I don't need any more development. I don't need a coach. I don't need to go to a training. I am good. But are you great? I am great, but are you exceptional? So learning and development should always take place. See, what those types of leaders fail to understand is that there is a cost to avoiding development, whether for yourselves or your teams. See, without development, here's some things that could happen. Not all the time. And they don't all happen at the same time, but they may happen from time to time, over time. So without development, without developing yourself or without developing your teams, communication breaks down. Conflict can escalate because you don't know how to handle conflict. You don't know the difference between conflict and misunderstanding. See, if you don't develop yourself or your teams, you miss some of these trust erodes because there's a lack of development, folks. There's a lack of understanding. There's a lack of taking it to the next level. I was speaking with someone today, had a meeting, great meeting. It was an exceptional meeting. And we were supposed to meet for an hour. We ended up meeting for 2.5 hours. It was fantastic. And we were talking about leadership. We were talking about great leaders. We were talking about the types of leaders. And I shared with her that in my years, I've seen two types of leaders. I've seen the strong and secure leader. And I've seen the weak and insecure leader. And we went in to discuss what is the difference between the strong and secure and the weak and insecure. It was fantastic. And we talk about that a lot in our training courses. And we also talk about it in our coaching opportunities. So if you have the opportunity to be part of our training, you'll hear us talk a lot about that in terms of the different types of leaders and what does that look like. See, the other thing that the costs to development is that performance certainly dips. May not in you because you're leader extraordinaire, but maybe in your teams because they're not developed. You don't focus on developing your teams. I've also seen it on the other side, where leaders develop their teams, but they forget about developing themselves. So I've seen it both where leaders develop themselves and not their teams. And I've seen where leaders develop their teams and not themselves. But certainly there's a cost to avoiding development. And you may think, well, yeah, the cost could be, it's expensive. But if you understand what the ROI, the return on the investment with development, look at the return when you invest in yourself and in your teams. Look at the cost to avoiding it. So look at both sides. See, here's the hard truth, folks. Most teams don't struggle because of competence. Most teams struggle because of the relational blind spot. Because of the relational blind spots. So what does that mean? See, blind spots don't disappear without development. So you could be carrying blind spots. You or your team could be carrying blind spots all along. You're not achieving the full capacity. You're not operating at the full capacity. You're not reaching, you or your team are not reaching that point where you can say, wow, we have maximized our capacity as a team. And partially, I will argue, and studies would say, will demonstrate, without development, you're not getting to the point where you should be. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe it's intentional that you just want to be living in a space of ordinary. Maybe you just want to live in a space of great. But how about stepping it up and living in a space of exceptional? How about stepping it up and helping your team to excel? How about stepping up and helping your team to go to the next level? So development is critical. Development is essential to growth, both personally and professionally. I'll say that again. Development is essential to growth, both personally and professionally. That's why, as you know, at the Jackman Group, our focus, we are a firm that helps leaders, teams, and organizations go from where they are to where they should be, and for individuals, where they're called to be. That is the reason. That's our sole reason, is to help others go from where they are to where they desire to be. We don't operate for any other reason. Our goal is to serve you and to help you go to the next level if that's your desire. And that's exactly why structured leadership development matters. Growth, going from where you are to where you desire to be. Folks, structured development truly matters. Relational leadership doesn't improve by accident. It improves through intentional investment. Investment in yourself, investment in your teams. So this spring, we did it last year, we're bringing it back this year. We are going to be launching the MPACT Leaders Spring 2026 Leadership Development Experience. And that's going to run that's an in-person. That's going to run from April 14th through May 12th. So what's involved in it? And this isn't for information, it's about true development. We're not giving you the information and say, okay, go for it. This is an opportunity for intentional development. 5 weeks. We're going to meet 1 day a week for 5 weeks. We're going to have structured growth, real conversation, practical application. And here's another key to it. Because part of the community going through this experience together, you build community with other leaders committed to getting better, like-minded people coming together with the goal of improving, with the goal of growing. So you don't become stronger. You don't become a stronger relational leader by hoping, by wishing. You become a stronger relational leader by doing what? By engaging. By saying, this is what I intend to do. This is my goal. My goal is to become a stronger leader, a more effective leader. And I'm not going to do it by wishing or hoping. I'm going to be intentional and investing in myself and in my team. So if you're serious about elevating how you lead your team, how you lead your organization, or how you influence, this experience was designed for you. So over the next couple of days, we will officially launch this development experience. So I invite you to stay tuned for more information. We're going to be launching it on all of our socials. You may see a video from me, but we're going to launch this over the next couple of days because we are serious this year about helping others go from where they are to where they desire to be in their leadership role. Or if you're not a leader, but you desire to be a leader, we invite you to join us. So as I prepare to end, I have a couple of questions for you. You know, we always have reflection questions. So when you join the 30, make sure you have your pen, paper, your tablet, your phone, because we are going to, as we end every show, almost every show, especially in this series, there's a point of reflection. So I'm going to give you 3 questions that I want you to think about, to consider over the next couple of days and over the next week or so. So I want you to ask yourself these things. Number 1, what are you assuming? Where are you assuming growth instead of developing it? Where are you assuming growth instead of developing it? That's number 1. Number 2, to consider, where are you relying on position instead of relational capacity? I'll say that again. Where are you relying on position, meaning position as a leader, position as a manager, wherever, so position as a business owner, as a director, where are you relying on position instead of relational capacity? Number 3, and the last one I want you to consider is this. What would you change if you committed to a structured growth this year? What would you change if you committed to a structured growth or to structured growth this year? So those are the 3 questions that I want you to think on, reflect on, consider. And if you're watching this live, you can always go back and replay and catch those 3 questions once again. So as we end, remember this. Leadership isn't static. It's practice. It's refined. It's developed. Relational leadership is developed. It's not assumed. So I want to thank you for being part of the 30. I want to thank you for being part of this series, Relational leadership. This episode was relational leadership is developed, not assumed. On our final episode, we're going to do that on part 4 on the next show of the 30. We are going to continue this series, and we will have our final episode, part 4 of this series, Relational Leadership. So I want to thank you. Whatever you're doing from a leadership standpoint, remember, lead with intention. Focus on development of yourself and your team. Don't focus on accidental development, but focus on intentional development. So until next time, may God bless you and your family. Be safe, and thank you for being here. We're out.